Coda's Kitchen with Mako TV. hmm I hope everyone is well, and as we have gone into the new year, we are hoping for a much better year for each and every one of us. What doesn't stop is food, food, and food. And recently, I have been having this serious obsession with puff pastry. It is so easy to make puff pastry, it just takes a long time. But what makes it even more tempting to work with is buying ready-made puff pastry from a store, which is absolutely affordable. So what I'm going to be showing you for today is how to make a puff pastry cinnamon roll. It's so simple. It's dealing with ingredients, around 3 or 4 ingredients that I'm sure you have lying around in your own kitchen. So please do stay tuned, and hopefully you also find this a very yummy type of treat, and you can try this at home as well. Thank you so much for the love, and continue supporting Mako TV. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Bye bye. I'm going to be using ready-made original puff pastry that you buy at the store. It's very easy to work with. We will need some melted butter. We will need brown sugar and cinnamon. That's basically it, guys. And the good thing about this recipe is that you can use as much as you desire depending on your preference. Less sugar, less cinnamon, extra sugar, extra cinnamon, depending on yourself. So I have a piece of grease-proof paper that I'm going to be working with at the bottom. It makes it easier to work with your puff pastry. This puff pastry normally should be in the freezer when you're not using it. So if you're deciding to use it today, take it out and leave it out somewhere in a cool place in your kitchen so that it can defrost naturally. If you press for time, you can always defrost it in the microwave for just a minute or so. Okay, so the good thing about the puff pastry is that it comes already with a wax paper, so it's easy to roll out. Okay, so we're going to try and get that out onto our sheet like such. If you feel that your puff pastry is a bit too sticky, you can always throw in some flour, which you should keep on hand with you at all times, right? Okay, we're going to keep it on to this packet until we are ready for the baking tray, just for us not to have any issues. So the first thing is, if it is a bit sticky, you can put some all-purpose flour on it, but that's fine. We're going to move straight ahead to our first ingredient, which is our melted butter. Okay, so first on your puff pastry, you're just putting some melted butter. Butter is essential in puff pastry making because butter enhances the puffiness of your puff pastry, and butter is one of the main ingredients when making puff pastry originally at home. Okay, so we have our butter there. The next thing we're going to be using is our brown sugar. As I said, you use as much as you want depending on your preference, and we're just going to dust it or sprinkle it on top of the butter. The butter also serves the function of holding these ingredients together, so yeah, it's a win-win situation. Brown sugar is a bit more, how can I say, a bit more wet and moist, so therefore we use brown sugar instead of white sugar, plus the taste is much sweeter. But if you want to use normal white sugar, go ahead. Okay, just getting as much as we can all over, filling in the gaps. Alright, what we're going to do is, with our hand, we're going to just gently tap the brown sugar onto our puff pastry so that it holds in a bit more better. Right, and whatever's on your hands are clean, you just dust over. Then comes your cinnamon. Cinnamon is a very strong type of spice, so you can use a little, which is actually going quite a long way. But if you're a big cinnamon fan, then you can put as much as you want. So We're sprinkling all over like this. And with our hands, we're going to just pat it, which also will spread the cinnamon a bit better over your puff pastry. Just like that. Now what do we do? As I said, we are making cinnamon rolls, so we need to get this puff pastry into the shape of a roll. So from one side, I'm going to try and get this off as best as possible. Or we'll just lift it up the first roll like this with our paper, and we're just gonna try and get this annoying paper out of the way. Okay, that's our first roll, and then we're going to go again. You can use the paper again to help you do your rolling. It's going to come off much easier this time. The last roll, just like that. Okay. As you can see, we have our cinnamon roll. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to sprinkle some flour here, because I can see that it is misbehaving, and sometimes in the kitchen your ingredients just tend to misbehave. It becomes a bit frustrating, but a chef always has a plan. Okay, so once you have rolled this out, it's ready for us to put it onto our oven tray. But before that, we need to cut it into equal sizes so that each person in our family can get a taste. You can also bake it as the size if you want to, but it's going to expand in the oven, remember, so we don't want it to be too big. We are either going to use a pizza cutter, which is easy to cut through, or we can use a serrated knife. I'm going to just try with a serrated knife for now. So I'm just seeing the sizes so that I know how many I can get from here. That should be fine. And then you just cut down all the way. Don't be scared if it looks a bit untidy, if there's an edge sticking out. That's not a problem at all. Okay, so we've cut it into almost individual pieces. Now we're going to get our baking tray. Oops, sorry for the noise. Just going to wipe this off. Now remember that puff pastry, if put onto a dry surface, it's going to stick because it's going to go into the oven. So we're going to take some of our all-purpose flour and just sprinkle this over like such. Not too much. And then we're going to take our puff pastry that has been rolled, and we're going to place it standing up like this. Okay. Leave some space in between as it's going to. And then we're going to is going to expand in the oven. So maybe like a 3 or 2 finger space in between each. Okay, so that's what you're basically doing, filling your oven tray with your puff pastry rolled out, standing up this way. So you're going to complete doing this. Now what you need to do, also pay careful attention, you need to preheat your oven to 200 degrees. While your oven is getting nice and warm, you're going to leave this tray in the fridge or the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes. Why do we do that? Because puff pastry puffs best when it's cold, so we're going to get the best results ever by introducing some coldness into the pastry before it goes into the oven. So you complete that, put it into the oven for about 20 or let's say 15 to 20 minutes, or until they have puffed nicely and they're nice and golden brown. And when we're done with that, I'm going to show you how to make the glaze that's going to be drizzled over these yummy, yummy puff pastry cinnamon rolls. Our cinnamon rolls are out of the oven, and this is a crucial time because the glaze that we are going to be making now needs to be put onto the rolls while the rolls are still warm. So we're going to do this very quickly. It's such a simple method of making a glaze. All you will need are 3 ingredients. Milk, you can use fresh cream if you want, 1 cup of vanilla essence, and some icing sugar. Right? Also, here ingredients are not measured according to a specific recipe. You can use it according to how much you would like. Okay, if your mixture becomes too thick, you can add extra milk. If it becomes too thin and ready, you add extra of your icing sugar. So it works in that way. So what we're going to do is we're putting in our milk. I'm using about 1 cup of milk. I don't need too much. I'm going to add in my icing sugar, also known as confectioner's sugar. Putting that in there. About 6 teaspoons until I'm ready to figure out if I need more or not. And my 1 cup of vanilla essence, and I'm going to just whisk that into a bowl. As it's whisking, I can see that I need much more icing sugar because it's too runny. Maybe I did put too much of milk, so therefore it's runny. So let me add in this entire amount to see if I need more or not. Still a bit runny. So I ended up adding more icing sugar. So I guess the tip for you is when you are making this, put less than a cup of milk. It's going to be a bit better for you. So you don't have to use too much, because depending on the number of rolls that you get from your puff pastry, you don't need so much of your glaze. Okay, so here's your glaze. That's done. And what we're going to basically do is take this glaze and drizzle it over our rolls with a spoon. So let's just see the consistency. Right? So let's see how it goes. Okay. Okay, it should be a bit more runny, I know. Sorry, a bit more thick actually, because it's disappearing. But let's just see what we can make of it. So this just goes on the top. All over. Like this. So don't be scared to put as much as you want or as little as you want. It's just a nice touch for the end of Okay, so once you've done this, you just let it dry aside for a while, and then you're ready to serve. And that is your cinnamon rolls made with puff pastry.